Welcome everybody to another Voice of Nick video editing show. We're going to be doing more editing, but it's not the same thing we've been working on. We finished our channel update, which is now up on YouTube. If you want to find it, I'll post a link in here. You can go to Voice of Nick Vlogs on YouTube and find a link to that. It turned out really well. I really enjoyed the way that it turned out. Now we're working on our new video, and we're going to literally create this project from scratch. This is going to be a Metal Gear Solid 1 classic game review to follow up our Metal Gear 2 one that we did. So let's get in here. Let's make a thing for projects. We're literally starting from square one. The only thing we haven't done is, I don't shoot the video live on stream. But other than that, all the editing process happens on the show. So let's copy the naming convention here. Very passionate about my naming. Okay. Now, we're going to take in the footage. Eventually, I'm probably going to end up... why is this not working? Eventually, I'm probably going to proxify, make proxies for these video clips, but for now we don't need to, I don't think. I think it has something to do with the project getting more and more bogged down with stuff. And at the beginning, it's not really that bad. So we're going to save changes to this workspace. Hopefully this will stick. For some reason, Premiere will not save my dual screen settings. It'll keep turning the project to a single screen, even though I am saving it to be dual screen. What I also did is I downloaded all the Metal Gear Solid episodes off of the Twitch channel, and these are all going to need proxies as well eventually, but at least we have that step done, which is where we sit there and download stuff. Not that we're going to need the clips now, because we don't really start adding B-roll until a few episodes in, after we've cut the assembly. So first we're going to make our sequence. I'll put this over here so you guys can see it. We're going to just make a new sequence. And what we did last time, which actually saved us a lot of trouble, is we made this 720 because our streams are 720, so it matches the frame size of all the footage, and therefore we don't have to conform every single piece of footage. Let's just confirm that that's the way we name these things. Oh, it's VON at the beginning, okay. Again, it's not really necessary that I name them identically, but it's the way I do my thing. All right, so now we're adding this in. First, we're going to make a separate sequence that's just all of the sound. You guys know the drill by now. Now we're going to add in this clip. This is the first frame of the video, which is kind of grotesque looking. I'm going to change it to that. And why is this too big? Oh, the video is too big because this is shot. The iPhone shoots in 1080, but the streams are all in 720. And obviously there's going to be more clips from the stream than there are clips from the iPhone. And we only have to conform this once as well. And you can see that this is very yellow looking, but we do a color correct pass on this before we send it out. For now, all we have to do is watch through it. We have roughly 16 minutes of filmed footage. I think that this will probably end up being, let's say, somewhere around like, I'm going to say it'll be like 7 or 8 minutes. Last time I guessed it on the nose. I said 7 minutes for the channel update. It was like 6 minutes and 58 seconds or something. It's a pretty crazy guess. If I'm guessing again, I'm going to say this one is 8 minutes. That's my guess. I'm committing to that right now. Let's see what happens. So right now, all we're doing is identifying what the clips are that we have.
Ladies and gentlemen.
And so we probably want to, number one, we're going to raise this a little bit. Number two, we're going to put our audio filter on it.
Ladies and gents,
and let's just make sure the filter's stuck. Cover your ears.
We have finished playing.
Ow, it didn't stick. So that's the thing in Premiere, there's like a glitch where a hard limiter is supposed to be able to prevent your audio from getting too loud. So that even if you turn it, it's kind of hard to explain, but even if you turn it too loud, it still won't get too loud. And obviously that did not work. So let's add our own.
Metal Gear Solid 1 on stream.
And now you can see that it doesn't hit the top of the volume bar, even though it's obviously too loud. So we're going to remove this giant audio increase we did.
Ladies and gents, we have finished playing.
And the point of that is like, because it's still technically getting a little bit distorted if you go really high with it, but if you don't, there's some kind of technology in Premiere that allows it to not sound distorted.
Metal Gear Solid 1 on stream. Ladies and gents, we have finished playing Metal Gear Solid 1 on stream. We are rampaging through these games. It came out in 1998. Judge, 2020.
Yeah, I think this is pretty good volume.
Ladies and gents, we have finished playing Metal Gear.
And what you're doing by doing that is like, one of the biggest kind of like signs of an amateur editor is that their volume levels are all over the place. And that's not to say that, we're trying to avoid sounding amateurish, but if you're trying to make a video that's like pleasant to watch, you want the sound to be mixed properly. And so you try to make it so that the vocal track the first step of that vocal track should be not getting like super loud and super quiet so that you have to keep turning up or down your volume. And the way that you do that, I have a set of filters that I put on the audio to prevent it from being too like irregular.
Ladies and gents, we have finished playing Metal Gear Solid 1 on stream. We are rampaging through these games. They're so good. And Metal Gear Solid 1 represents a huge paradigm shift for this series. Let's jump in and take a look at Metal Gear Solid 1.
And so that's the kind of stuff it is. It's very clearly shot to be in, sections.
Let's jump in and take a look.
Oh, I did an alternate intro. What is this sound? That's just a glitch. Alternate intro stinger.
Let's jump in and take a look at Metal Gear Solid 1.
I think they're roughly equal. I don't think that that's really that much better.
So Metal Gear.
Historical context. I like starting with these because that's how I enjoy video games and movies, is to like understand when it came out, what's important about it, that kind of stuff.
So Metal Gear Solid 1 came out in 1998. This was on the PlayStation. And this was a huge technical powerhouse for the PlayStation. There's a lot of graphical fidelity packed in there. It's kind of hard to judge, 20 plus years later, how good this game actually looked at the time. But this thing was incredible, and it still looks super sharp. It still has an amazing graphical style. If you can get over the fact that it doesn't just look like a modern video game, this thing is still gorgeous. I still love the art style of Metal Gear Solid 1.
Yeah, I kind of gave up on that because somebody who's not inclined to, kind of like open their mind to thinking an old game looks good is not going to be convinced by me.
So
most people now would never have the capacity to think that Metal Gear Solid 1 is a good-looking game, unfortunately. It is, in my opinion, a great-looking game, But yeah, most people say like, oh, it doesn't, it doesn't look like The Witcher 3. Like, this looks like crap. It's old. Haha. Look how old it looks. Which I think is a shame, because that means people are discounting a huge amount of amazing video games.
So now that we're on a new platform, we have sort of a new technological bar that's been...
Okay, this is tech.
So now that we're on a new platform, we have sort of a new technological bar that's been set. Kojima is really able to take his film influences, which started sort of creeping into Metal Gear 2. He's able to take those way farther, like as far as basically he wants to at this point.
Oh, yeah. This is not actually about the tech, it's about the film influences.
Right, so the cutscenes are gorgeous displays of cinematography and action and voice acting and all of the stuff that he couldn't really do in the previous two games. Kojima is able to just run wild with everything. And not only are the cutscenes very cinematic, which is kind of expected, because that's like, you just take aspects of movies and put them into games. That's what a cutscene essentially is. But what's really impressive about Metal Gear Solid 1 is that Kojima sort of adapted movie concepts into the gameplay. So for example, while you're sneaking around, when you're just walking around in the regular world, the camera has this dynamic shifting camera angle. So for example, if you press up against the wall, the camera will shift to show like a really cool dynamic angle of like Snake in the corner and looking at a guard. These kind of like changes that they did to the gameplay itself to make that feel more cinematic really gives the game this cohesive cinematic feel. And as we continue through this series, every one of these games just keeps getting more and more similar to a movie, a little bit more influenced by movies. It kind of makes me excited to take a look through some of the other games as we continue through.
There's a major hot mic right there. Not hot mic, but overmodulated to the max. We're probably not going to even use this, but yeah, this part is very loud. I'm gonna put a red marker here. Bad audio.
So mechanically, Metal Gear Solid 1 adds a huge amount of new mechanics. The technological, abilities of the PlayStation.
You'll notice that sometimes I'll repeat the same concept I've talked about before in another section, which is to say that, when we re-edit the video, I know enough while I'm shooting to know that I might use this part about the technology in various parts. And if I talk about it in various parts, it might have different contexts. So I'll actually mention the tech a couple of different times so that I can choose which area I want to use it in, and then I'll just not use it in any of the others. So it's not going to appear 5 times in the video, but you'll notice that I keep saying things about the technology increase.
One, really let them just pack a lot more stuff in there. Stealth-wise, you have a few...
Okay, so... Mechanics intro tech.
In there.
And that's just a little snippet so that if I wanted to, I'd be able to use that bit about the technology.
Stealth-wise, you have a few major upgrades. Number one, you can grab guards.
So let's actually say stealth grabbing guards.
Stealth-wise, you can grab guards. So you can take them by the neck, choke them out. It's sort of like a much more subtle way of sneaking through a compound rather than just punching and kicking them, which if you're looking at that in the 2D version in Metal Gear 1 and 2, it doesn't really feel that off. If you're doing it on the PlayStation, it doesn't seem right. So you can still punch and kick guards, of course, especially if you get into a combat situation, but choking them out feels much more like something James Bond would do or some kind of other secret agent. Another aspect, secret agent.
And we can mix this audio. My filter doesn't necessarily work. If I get too loud, it'll start sounding really overmodulated, so we can fix that on a per case basis but only once we have the final, vocal track, which is going to be a while from now.
Another aspect is that the guards themselves, as they have been doing throughout the series so far, the guards themselves have been getting a lot more intelligent.
Okay.
Another aspect throughout the series so far, the guards themselves have been getting a lot more intelligent. And in Metal Gear Solid 1, the guards are way more intelligent. They can, the guards can see your footprints in the snow. They can hear you knocking on the walls. They can, detect you in all sorts of different ways that you are probably not going to be ready for jumping into this game. So be ready for a huge upgrade in the the opposition, which is certainly a welcome change. Every time these games up the realism and up the difficulty, it makes it just a lot more interesting mechanically to be a part of.
It's kind of hard to discuss this because we are so much farther than MGS1 now. It's hard to not talk about, like, oh yeah, we've played like 7 of these games and every time they've upped the difficulty of the mechanics. But in this video, we've only played 3 of them so far at this point, as far as this video goes. Metal Gear 1, Metal Gear 2, and then Metal Gear Solid. So you can see me trying to like rein in what I'm talking about, try not to talk about the franchise as it exists further than MGS1. But sometimes, I get carried away.
The enemy also has other tricks up their sleeve.
Okay, stealth. Environmental tricks.
The enemy also has other tricks up their sleeves now. There are all sorts of things. In Metal Gear 1, we encountered a lot of dogs. In this game, there are dogs as well. There's like security cameras. There's all sorts of like other little things that are there trying to trick you. Trap doors in the floor. The game design is still pretty sneaky itself, just like it was in Metal Gear 1 and 2. They're trying to kill you, trying to trip you up all the time.
I'm probably not going to use that one. I didn't really mention anything that wasn't already in it. And Metal Gear 1 or 2, only the security cameras are really a new feature. The trapdoors were already in Metal Gear 2 and 1. The dogs, I already said, were in Metal Gear 1. And they're also in Metal Gear 2, actually. So it's probably not necessary to mention that.
Another thing in Snake's arsenal is that we can actually get into first-person...
Okay, yeah. This is a major...
Another thing in Snake's arsenal is that we can actually get into first-person view now. This is a major difference in the series. You can hold the triangle button and it'll go into first-person view looking through Snake's eyes. You can look through binoculars. You have all sorts of items on your menu that'll allow you to do things. But looking through first-person view really allows you to take an assessment of the entire battlefield, in a way that you really can't do just by looking at the map in the corner of the screen. It totally changes the way that you play the game. First-person view is something that I would do all the time.
I didn't make a great case for that, really. Maybe I'll use a tiny little piece of it. This is the kind of stuff where, like, the video is 16 minutes long that I shot because I wanted to have, I wanted to cover various angles that I can use for the cut. But even when I'm shooting it, I know that it's only going to be like less than half as long as the amount of shot footage. And that's what editing is the ability to look at, 16 minutes of stuff and find 5 really good minutes within that. Create 5 really good minutes sometimes. Martin Scorsese says this thing, there's something called an assembly edit when you cut, which I refer to my stuff as an assembly edit. It's not really the same thing, but when you make a film, the first edit, you shoot it, or you cut it to be exactly as it was written in the screenplay. So you don't leave out any scenes, you don't make any creative decisions yet, you just put in every scene that the screenplay calls for, and it always ends up being like 4 hours long, like way too long for it to actually be, because, the screenplay invariably is gonna, it's not going to work exactly as written when you cut the movie together. And Scorsese always, he says this thing that's like, if you're not physically ill looking at your assembly edit, then there's something wrong. Like you're going to be physically ill looking at your assembly because it's going to look so bad. And that's the same thing, because you just see all this stuff and you go like, wait, do I actually know what I'm doing? Like this looks like crap. But once you start shearing everything away, then it becomes, then you're chiseling the Michelangelo's David out of the just giant slab of stone. So you got to believe in yourself, and then you'll get there. Not think that you're a hack. So guys, that's gonna do it for this one. We're like, if we're looking at our sequence here, we're maybe like 40% through our cataloging of the clips. After that, we start putting together our assembly. So we'll see if whether or not we're hacks once we start doing that. Thank you for watching, though. If you want to find where we post these videos when they're finished, you can go on YouTube and look for Voice of Nick Vlogs. That's the name of the channel. I'll post a link to it in the chat as well. This is going to bring you to our newest video on the channel, which was actually just posted earlier today. So if you want to find our newest vlog video, it's right there. That's our channel update. It has info about all of our YouTube, Twitch, and podcast offerings. We have new stuff in all three of those categories. So there's a lot of new stuff going on our channel. You'll find out about all of it in that newest video. Let me know what you guys think. And don't forget to click through there, go onto the channel itself, and hit that follow button on YouTube. You'll of course see all the videos that are already there. We have 10 videos posted, and you'll see all the stuff that comes out in the future, like this one we're working on right now. Guys, I will see you on the next one. Thank you for watching the show, and bye-bye.